And I'm going to ask Philippine, before we go ahead, to take a screenshot. So would you mind to please just put your cameras on just for a moment so that we can capture a screenshot and register our presence.
Hi, everyone. You look so lovely. All right. I see John is outdoors as usual in his garden.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. I'm about to capture a picture. If anyone else wants to switch on their camera, please do. Okay, I think I've got it. Let me just double check. Just give me a second. Okay, I'm gonna take one last one and then I will be done. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Philippine. Really appreciate that. And we are recording, as I said. And I need to just let you know that those of you who have not received the recording of last week, that's probably because Zainab is still ill. And Zainab will be back next week, and she has the list of email addresses. But those of you whose email addresses I do have, I will absolutely send a recording to you after today. So hopefully you'll get 2 after today. Normally what Zainab has been doing is Zainab has asked somebody to open up with contextualizing our work of being in the environment, working with the environment, eco-justice, and also working with the land, the ground, and our faiths, how that relates to our faiths. And Philippine is just reminding us in the chat that you can also access our videos on our website, and that's a really important piece. Philippine, would you mind to just please put the website in the chat for the convenience of our participants? So I thought that what I would do this morning is just share a short piece with you from a paper that was presented at the a symposium on holy books in Colombo in 2015. And this paper was presented by Dr. Ian Rex Fry, who's a scholar from the University of Divinity in Melbourne, Australia. But just listen to what he was saying in 2015. He says, "The world is in crisis. Humanity is at risk because the effectiveness of systems in the universal environment that safeguard food supplies, health, and habitat is being reduced. The causes are the policies and conduct of those who determine the use of resources, the relationships between communities, and especially the means to wage war in order to cling to positions of privilege." In his book, Tread Lightly on the Earth, Judge Christopher Weramantry wrote that the common teachings of religions that command the loyalty of about 2/3 of the world's population constitute one of the most massive forces available for removing threats that hang like a sword of Damocles over the human future. He said the common core of teachings of the world's great religions has been neglected for centuries, and called for it to be incorporated into the international legal system to address these environmental crises. So Judge Weramantry is correct. The holy books of the world's faiths and the works of its philosophers contain ample guidelines that, if applied, could have avoided the crises that we now face. Those guidelines may, if applied deliberately and with determination, still ensure that future generations can live at peace, in harmony, with security, enjoying equitable supplies of resources that are essential for everyone, and justice. And in such circumstances, all humanity may and might conceivably come to better understand its relationship with the divine and respond to that relationship so that a favorable living environment can be maintained. So according to Weramantry, our faith traditions come together and coalesce on the fundamental themes of respect for the environment and concern for future generations. He says international law already incorporates these principles within its corpus of customary international law and general principles of law recognized by civilized nations. The translation and precept into practice needs to take place at the levels of both international and domestic law, and there is an urgent need for a massive scheme to spread the knowledge of these principles at all levels, from the schoolrooms to the corridors of power. And I'm going to stop there, because what I wanted to just bring to you today was a thought that what we are doing here in working with the land is really a return to natural law. And I feel that we are creating a change in the way we think, in the way the people around us think, and how we behave. So one person makes such a difference in, for instance, just sharing the bounty of your garden with your neighbor, who suddenly goes, oh my goodness, isn't this amazing? I can do this too. And in that way, knowledge is shared. And what we're really doing is sharing the basis, the rooting of who we are as humanity, no matter what our faith is. And as an interfaith, interspiritual minister, I belong to everybody. So I'm not able to bring to you a specific faith and say, this is what my faith says about the earth. But what I'm able to do is bring to you a basket of all the beautiful heart lessons of all the faiths that come to us and bring us the knowledge and the wisdom and the joy of living on this planet as human beings, of life together, and of life in association and in collaboration with the earth and all her beauty and bounty. So every morning I go down to the ocean and I swim in the ocean at 7 o'clock. And in that beautiful, beautiful still ocean this morning, I just looked with awe at the way the light was just kissing the top of the water, and I was inside that. And then I look up to the mountain and I see the incredible early morning glow and the abundance of the mountain and the life that grows from her and grows around us. So every morning that becomes my sacred practice. And when I come out of that ocean, I just feel the beauty of the air as it touches my skin, and it's so fresh and I feel so alive. And it's that feeling also when one digs one's toes into the sand, or digs one's hands into the soil, that really just gives us this connection, this knowledge that we are so deeply part of all of this. We are not separable from any of it. One of the things in our faiths, in many faiths, is the idea of separation, is the idea that we have dominion, is the idea that humans are somehow not the same as the rest of life. And of course, that is one of the great woundings of all of us, of humanity, is that sense of separation. And I do believe that our path towards healing and towards really identifying ourselves with our creators and engendering that beautiful, warm relationship, no matter what your faith is, that warm relationship with divine source, with your creator, it really can be nurtured by being in the soil, by working with your garden, by enjoying and appreciating and loving the bounty of the earth, and understanding how we are just not separable from all of that, from all of life. It is given to us to be part of it. When we eat, all of life comes from life, whether it is plant-based, whether it is animal-based, no matter what it is, all of life comes from life. And it is for us to truly appreciate and love. So thank you. That is just me sharing a little bit of my heart with you, and thank you for the opportunity to do that. I am now going to do this screen sharing thing to allow John to take center stage with his piece. So if you'll bear with me 1 second. So share screen. And first I have to open that. Okay. Philippine, I don't know what I'm doing wrong here, but oh, there we are. I think this is it.
Are you okay?
I think so. I'm getting there. There we are. Can you see has the screen gone black?
Yes, it has.
Okay, great. I'm now going to, hold on a second. You know what is confusing to me is that it won't, oh wait, there we are. For some reason, it has actually given me it's given Philippine, I'm just needing a little bit of help. It's given me the bar across the bottom instead of moving it to the top. So I can't see where to press play.
It's actually covered the play now. Can you stop sharing and then try again?
Okay, let me do that again. So it's covered play again. And I'm not quite sure how to, oh wait, I think I can do, I've worked out how to change that around. There we are.
Okay, good afternoon. Today we are going to talk about water management. Within water management, we are going to talk about conservation of water. We are going to talk about harvesting, and we are going to talk about irrigation. But basically what we are talking about is the crisis that we are having in the world. Crisis in South Africa, crisis in Africa, that water is very scarce commodity, in which we need to take care of it. And we need to practice water management, water conservation, harvesting in wherever we are working with water, or when we are growing our vegetables or food. The entry point to understand water, sometimes many people, they do not understand water because they do not actually look at the ecological cycles. The ecological cycles are best to inform us that water is so important and water is interconnected to other elements. Anything that you see living on earth, it has a support of water. So water cycle, people have to understand what is water cycle. Because if you do not imagine, if you do not have trees or vegetation, how can we have effective water cycle? The water that evaporates from dams, from the ocean into atmosphere for rain, that is not effective if there are no plants. So plants are the key elements in the water cycle. We need to understand the nitrogen cycle, understand the carbon cycle, understand the oxygen cycle, daily and seasonal cycles, and the energy cycles, food chain, polyculture systems in our gardens. Once we have this understanding, we can able to respect water. We can able to respect one of these important resources as that is water. So without respecting water, without taking consideration that water is important, the challenge is that we have in schools or in wherever we live, we have deserts. Like as you see on these photos, this photo, it's a school where there are teachers, educated people, academics, they are in that area at that school, but they cannot see the impact or negative impact on the environment from the water that is captured, that is run off from the roof, and it runs to the ground, and now it takes off the soil. And then it seems as if the building is growing because the bottom soil is being eroded. And as you look on the right side of the photo, you see plants, they start exposing their roots on the surface. It's because the water is not managed well. These are some of the signs that we see in most cases that water is not managed properly. So it is important to work out a system that helps in managing this water, in managing these resources. As you see on the left again picture, you see poor runoff management. The water is causing destruction because farmers, they cut down all the trees. And if there is no trees, as I said in the end report, that Where there is no trees, usually you are creating a naked system where the environment, you are leaving the environment naked. And when the environment is naked, like on the left side, what is happening? The soil is being eroded. And when we look at the farming system that is happening, the modern, what we saw so-called the modern farming, you see, it cuts all the trees and leave the land bare. And once it does that, this is the result. The water will come, run off on the surface and take all the topsoil away. And when it takes the topsoil away, where is it sending to? To the ocean. And one day you'll be in the ocean playing at the beach. The sand, you have to ask your a question, where is this sand coming from? And where is the where is this is part of the soil coming from? And once you are in that position, you are able to answer a certain issue. You are able to respond to the environmental crisis that we can see. So as you see on the right, erosion takes place and siltation is happening, and a lot of sand is in the river and is being taken to the ocean. And without proper management, the water, without proper management of water, then we have siltation. All the pools in the rivers are taken away. All the pools in the river are closed. It's because mainly there is no proper management of the runoff water. So what we are trying to say here, and what I'm going to share with you, is say, if we are good farmers and we are responding to the uh, the the need of God, we are saying, let's manage the environment. If you cut down all the trees and if you remove all the trees in the system, how can we manage? How are you saying you are managing the environment? And if you cannot manage water, one of the natural resources, how are you responding to the needs of God? And it is important that water should be managed at household level, out to the commercial farming, and to the regional level. We should manage water. So basically, to have an understanding of how we can manage water, we have principles or effective water management systems. Cover. Ask yourself whether the garden is covered. And as you see from my background here, you can see my crops. The garden is actually covered. And I can flip it a little bit down. You can see the garden is covered. And it is all about, once you cover, what happens to the rain? It's received in the system and it's forced to go into the ground and stored into the soil for a long time. And it supports our boreholes. It supports a number of things in the system. Protect water sources and storage points from pollution. When you have a spring in a rural area, you need to plant lots of trees around it so that you protect that spring. When you have a borehole, you need to plant also trees around or catch water to trap water so that it goes into the borehole. It supports the borehole, and the borehole is rejuvenated or is having enough water in the throughout the season. Try to have a way of pushing water into the ground by putting small pits or having a way of managing water that it goes into the ground. Without doing that, you are allowing water to go on the surface. And when water goes in the surface, what is happening? You are causing destruction. Water must not run on the surface for even 2 meters. You should control water that it should go into the ground, to go into the system where it's trapped and spread into the area. Save water, put water, make sure that when you are using water, either in the toilet or flushing the toilet, when you are using water, we need to work out a system of saving water. So the system of saving water, there are so many methods that we can use. I'll show you some of them. And store, it is important any drop of water you receive, try to direct it, channel it, and collect it, and put it in a tank or drum or in a reservoir. And once you do that, you are helping to save water and reuse this water in the next time when there is a need for water. The part of the principles of water harvesting and conservation is to think very careful, thoughtful, thoughtful observation. One day you can take a time and sit in your garden and just observe what is happening. And when you observe what is happening in the garden, make sure that you observe and ask a question, what is happening with the runoff water? What is happening with the rain we receive? And once you understand that and you observe the landscape, you'll find that the runoff water that is received in your area, sometimes it's running away from the farm into the rivers. And you observe something like water from the roof when it drops on the ground. Where is it going, and what is happening with this water? And when you know that this water it's not managed, then you take action. Then when you start taking action, start from the highest point of harvesting the water. When we talk of highest point, let's say you are on a landscape, and this landscape, it's a mountain, and then you have the lower part like a river. The most important thing is that start collecting water, harvesting water from the upper part of the mountain, and you go step by step, going down with swales or contours that are built to control the runoff water. Start small and simple, and spread and infiltrate the flow of water into the ground, and plan for an overflow. When there is too much water, what do? Maximize on living and organic ground cover. That is ground cover, the one I mentioned earlier on the previous slide. Make sure that you maximize the ground cover, maximize beneficiary relationship, staking, that's the gilding formation of plants, putting plants together so that they help in the pushing of water into the ground. Reassess and feedback. Make sure that you follow up what is happening and check, record what is happening on the ground to make sure that water is managed properly. So basically, it's this slide. It's about a long and thoughtful observation. When rain is pouring, what is happening around the landscape. And once you understand what is happening on the landscape, it will help you to make a constructive decision on the system. And when you have the water is not managed properly, then you try to heal the soil and correct runoff water. Once you are having understanding of water and soil that needs to be managed, then you can start having access or ways of conserving water. Like on the left here, we have this is a project that I have done in Malawi, and there is water runoff from the building and from the road, and we trap it. It comes in here. A silt is trapped here, and the clean water is here and goes into the pond, and then we keep fish in the pond. And this water, this tank is about 75,000. It's collecting 75,000 liters of water, and then they use this water to irrigate the bananas. Overflow from here, it goes into the contour ridges, and they use it for the garden. On the right here, it's also another project in Zimbabwe where we say we can use the resources available to control and manage the runoff water, and at the same time control erosion. So you make sure that the water is running from the mountain, and then you put these gabions. You can use wood; they will decompose eventually. But the idea here is to force water to go to reduce the speed of water, so that water infiltrates in the soil, and then it can stop the erosion that you see on the ground. Then you can build tanks. For example, at a household, you can build underground tank like this simple one, yeah, and you can build a Ferro tank system, and this is a Ferro tank system that I built in Zambia. And when you think about this, it is an easy way of building a tank. This one, you can use bricks. You dig a hole, and then you put bricks, like you are building a house, around the house. And then after that, you can make sure that the water is trapped and it comes through here and it's stored in here. And eventually it is used for the future use. And you look here, it's wire, and it's a grid what you call the welded mesh. And with this welded mesh, you put a chicken mesh, and then you plaster cement and sand water, this mortar, then you plaster on it, and then you make it just a 4mm size of a thickness of the plaster, and you pour water here, you catch water here, then water is stored for a longer time in there. This is the same tank after completing this one. After completing, we are building like this. This tank is just 4cm thin, thick, and it is important that you can use the resources available for this. And the Ferro tank cement is cheaper, anyone can build it. So it's something that we can do in conservation of water. This is my old farm where I harvest water from the here and direct water into the tank, and from the tank it comes out from this pipe, and from this pipe it goes into this tank, and it goes in here, and then it makes the garden green, because all this green in the garden, it is water from harvesting from the roof here. So it is easy to do that, to store water and channel water for management, for growing your crops. It is important to know that you can also do pit beds. For example, this is a house, and you have a house here, and the water flow comes into pit here. And this is a ditch that is created like this one is as well on this side. And then you plant a tree closer by, and then the water is trapped into this system, and the water stays there and is pushed into the ground. And these are the pit beds that one can promote, or basins to infiltrate water in the garden or in the field. In a field, you can also look out at how you can develop swales and contours. For example, here it is on the ridge where we are looking at the farming system that was happening here was not good. Water was just flowing from here down to the field. But after we trained them, we managed to make contour ridge, this one that comes this way. And then we trap water, and when we trap water here, it infiltrates to support the crops we are growing here. And this is on the other side after 2 months. After 2 months of the garden. See, the swales are here, and out of the corner here, you can see we put mulch, we put lots of mulch around it, and making sure that the water is trapped and goes into the ground and supports the plants that we are growing there. Also, in the field, one can do station planting. Many people now are practicing station planting in the way we have trained them. This section is the same as this one. This is when we were planting it, when we are growing it. For example, this station planting is a way of putting nutrients or manure in a pit and trap water. So when water comes, it goes into these pots, and then it allows the maize to grow, it allows the plants to grow, because the water has been concentrated in a basin, and it helps to make sure that the plants, they grow happily, like what you see on the right side of where this lady is, where this is the same place after 3 months or so. So this is why water is important to conserve. It is important to consider the irrigation systems. Like we have the different types of irrigation systems. We have the manual. When you use the manual on irrigation, the most important thing we want to address here is that how can you conserve water? How can you make sure that you are not wasting water? So I'll show you examples of irrigation systems that we can use. The manual is using a watering can or bucket or hosepipe direct to the plants, and lower requirements for infrastructure and technical equipment. You can use it, good for small gardens, and it is good because you are directing water to the plants. Surface irrigation or furrow or basin, water moves over and across the land by simple gravity flow in order to wet and to infiltrate into the soil. This method uses lots of water. It's not a method that we can encourage. It is using a lot of water because you're allowing water to flood. You're allowing water to run on the surface. And when you allow water to run on the surface like this, it evaporates and some of the water is wasted. Sprinklers are sometimes called the overhead irrigation system. Water is distributed by overhead high pressure sprinklers or guns. This is good when the ground is covered, when the ground is mulched, and it is good only when you have resources, you are farming on a larger scale. But it is not the best irrigation system that you can apply. Drip irrigation, also known as trickle irrigation, water falls drop by drop, just as at the position of a root. This method can be the most water efficient method of irrigation if managed properly. Evaporation and runoff are minimized because the water is going in a pipe and drips into to a tree or to a plant or to a vegetable, and then it goes direct to the plant, to the roots, and support the plant to grow. It is the best irrigation method that I can recommend. That most farmers, they should use one of these drip irrigation systems. And the microjets or sprinklers are nozzles, and they are similar to mist irrigation. Mist irrigation has very fine spray nozzles, and it is suitable in the plant nurseries. When you are growing your seedlings, it is good to use microjets or to use these microjets for irrigation, so that it doesn't disturb or displace the soil when irrigating. It is a small, it produces small droplets of water, and then it doesn't splash the soil. So it is a good method of irrigating your garden. So these are the other the methods that we can use for irrigation. But I'm going to show you further how you can manage water. So if you have you are living in a town, or you have a system in a house where you have a tub, or you are having a kitchen where you have also a sink to collect water, water can be channeled and distributed in this way. You have a tree first, you channel your water from the tub, and then you have a tree. When this tree is grown up, you can channel the water here also. You can also channel to further trees and reduce the water to this area. So it's like connecting one pipe from the house, and then you distribute it. This the pipe is distributed to feed to the plants. So when you after bath, the water moves out to these areas, to these trees, and specifically it's directed to the specific tree or specific plant you want to grow. And this helps in conserving water and allowing water to go right into the ground. But remember, when you are using the grey water, you need to make sure that it's not going on top of this mulch, but it's going right into the bottom of the ground, like under the mulch. So it's not good to expose the water on the sunlight. It's supposed to be directed into the mulch, so it infiltrates in the soil. The same as water from the kitchen. After washing plates, you can direct it, or after doing your laundry, you can direct water into the trees. So when you plant trees, it is important to know that you plant a tree, and the tree needs water mainly on the roots. So you can plant a tree like this one, a citrus, with a pipe where you pour water into the pipe. And then this pipe is about 1 meter long, which means about 60 centimeters is in the ground, and about 40 centimeters is above the ground. So you pour water there, and then it goes to the 60 centimeters down in the soil, and then it goes down below the roots of a tree. And through hydrotropism system, the root of a plant will follow where it's wet, and then it starts to grow deeper, going deeper and deeper. And it's a way of conserving water because you are not putting water on surface, water is directed to the ground. It is important that when you are designing your farm or your household, make sure that you are allowing water to be managed in a proper way. Like here, it's one of my old farm. You see water, grey water management. This was 2006 and 2009. The garden was like this. So what happened? Can you spot this house, the chicken house? And here, can you see the chicken house? It's almost covered. What we have done is we took or directed water from a grey water, and we direct it along here and plant different type of trees. Like here, what you see, and this water is going into dams or tanks, different tanks. And once it goes in there, we are sending it to filter and infiltrate it so that it supports the system. So within the 7 tanks, at the end of the tanks, after cleaning the water is clean. And when this water is clean, then you can use it for the garden, or you can use it for other uses or within your project. When you have a big farm, you can measure contour lines using A-frame. Like here, you see these are ladies that are practicing the A-frame, and you can see here these are spots. That's where it's coming from. This is where the peg is, another peg, another peg, another peg. It goes on. They are using this frame. It's called the A-frame. The other one is making pegs, points. The other one is using this one. This is measuring the contour line. We are spotting the contour line, and after measuring the contour line, then we construct contour ridge, like here on the right side. We have a contour ridge now. That is before you do the planting of crops. You need to measure the contour ridges, contour lines, and then develop contour ridges. And then when water comes, it's trapped in here and stored in these ridges. And also, you see how many are there? Several of them. It's making sure that any drop of water that comes on the farm is trapped. Water from this section is trapped by this one. Water from this section is trapped by this one. And it continues like that. So you do not lose water in the system. This is linking to terracing system. If the land is too steep, you can use terraces to trap the water into the ground. So even in the farming area, when you are doing your farming methods, you can do ridges. Like here, you see it's ridges in the garden, and then the crops are on the ridge. And then you trap the water into the ridge, in the basin. And we call it tied ridging because this ridge and this ridge, we tie it with this, we cross over with another ridge, small ridge in between, so that water is not flowing from one end to another. And as you see, this farm, around it, we have a forest so that we trap all the moisture to go into the ground, and we don't lose evaporation of water or through wind, because this acts as windbreak. So this water goes to the plants and then it infiltrates in the soil. Further, you can mulch the ground, or you can have ground cover to make sure that this water is not exposed to the sun. Water is directed to the ground. With water, we can make enterprise out of it. This is one of the contour ridge that has been developed, and we trap water. Water goes into this and sit and infiltrate into the ground. This is in one of the driest areas in Zimbabwe, where water, we trap water and we direct water into these basins. And after trapping it into the basin, it feeds for the soil for a long time. Even if if we get rain, maybe after every 2 weeks or every 1 month, you can still survive. You can still harvest some crops because this water can stay longer in there. Further, you can extend this the swales into dams like here, and then you keep fish. This is also in some areas, some projects in Zimbabwe where we are keeping fish. And keeping fish, it means that you are creating a business enterprise out of it, and you are providing nutrition security for your family. So, and you are improving the ecosystem wherever you are, wherever you are practicing the water harvesting systems. So basically, this is what we are trying to say, that it is important that we manage water, and at the end of the day, we have clean rivers. When you see rivers dirty with the gray water or brown water or any other color in the river, it means at our household, wherever we live, we are not managing water. So it is important for us to manage water in different forms, different practices, so that our rivers can provide clean water. And once we do that, the biome, the environment, the resources around are kept clean because of our practice on the environment. So water is precious. Water is good. We need to take care of it. Every drop we receive, we need to make sure that we conserve it. We take care of it. And once we do that, we are not doing it for us, but we are doing it for the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, as always, John. That was absolutely fascinating and certainly has given me quite a lot that I want to be looking at with my carrot patch. Are there any questions for John regarding the water and the management of water? Oh, yeah, there's one question that has come up in the chat, John, and that is that is the concrete tank better than the JoJo tank?
Yeah, good afternoon. Yes, the JoJo tank, it's plastic. And the plastic, as they get older, they release the chemical that they are made out of. And they can actually affect people indirectly, affect the environment indirectly. The cement, it's also chemical, but cement, you know, it's coming from the rocks. And once you mix cement and water, you make it solid, it's no longer poison, or it's no longer release the chemical. And the cement tank, it lasts longer than a JoJo tank. It can last more than 25, 50 years. And it's all about maintaining. And also, it is a way of creating entrepreneurship. Once people know how to do the Ferro cement tank, they can do a business out of it. But the JoJo, it's only the few who supply us with the JoJo tanks or the tanks, plastic tanks. And most of us, we cannot learn, or we don't know how to make a JoJo tank. But a Ferro cement, it's cheaper and it's easy to make, and anyone can build a Ferro tank. Yeah.
And I imagine that the Ferro tank, another benefit of it is that you can actually build it to fit the size that you want.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, you can determine what you want. I had on my own farm, I had about 7 tanks, and they were all different sizes: 25,000, 50,000 liters of water. So I can make what you want, the size you like.
That's great. Thank you. That's wonderful to know. I've really learned something with that. And there's another question from Andre Naidu in the chat, and that is regarding water from the mountain. Is it drinkable? And I'm reminded of the stories of the kings who built their castles at the very top of the hill, and because they wanted the freshest water, but it means that the people who live at the bottom of the hill get the not so clean water. So Andre, I suppose it depends where on the mountain you live, but John, I'm going to let you answer that.
Yeah, water from the mountain is so clean, but it's not clean if it's running on the surface. Once you direct it in the soil and then it goes into the ground, it forms springs. It comes out again through the cracks of the stones. or the rocks that are there. But once it has gone through the mountain, through the plants, through the roots of the plants in the soil, we grew up drinking such type of water, and we are still very healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Another question that has come up in the chat from Gabriel is, can one use black polythene to cover the garden in the absence of grass?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that, because the black polythene, it will wear out with the sun, and at the end of the day, it's become mess in your garden, and it's become part of pollution. It's important just to grow ground cover plants, like what we covered in this first session. Grow plants that can creep on the ground, or you can grow plants that are you can cut them and have a mulch. But I've seen commercial farmers, they use plastic to grow strawberries, and they do that mainly not to catch water, but it's for weed control, and also for the strawberries, when they bear fruits, to sit on the plastic rather than to sit on the soil. So, but it's not mainly for trapping water or conserving water. Of course, a bit of conservation is there, because the water is the plastic is covering the soil where the roots of a plant is. Yeah, but plastic I wouldn't recommend in a small gardens. I would recommend grass or ground cover plants. Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting, John. What I've done with my strawberries to stop them from going on the ground is I actually took a little a bark of tree that had fallen off, and I actually put it underneath so that the strawberries grow over that, so that they're hanging over the bark of this branch rather than lying on the ground. It was just an option there. So there are other things coming up in the chat, and I don't want to lose them. One of the questions here, Manibajara, sometimes the water in the tank develops green lining like algae. Is there something we can put into the tank to avoid that? And yeah, and also, is there a limited time that we can keep the water? And Tabelo, I see your hand. I'm coming to you next. Yes, John.
Water, when you see developing the green line, it has stayed there for quite a long time, and probably it's not oxygenating, it's not running properly. So it is important that when you have water in the tank, you use it, it circulates, new water comes, all the water goes out, and just try to circulate it like it's still moving. If water is stagnating and there is no doesn't have life in it, it becomes sunlight, of course, but it becomes what's called green matter, algae will start developing there. So life I'm talking about, like if there are, it depends with the water. If you want to drink, if you do not want to drink, you want to use for the garden, it is okay to develop those green matter and then just add fish in it, and then fish will feed out of the green stuff that you see there. But if it's for drinking, you need to avoid that green matter. It's a lot of organics that are settling in the garden, in the tank.
Okay, thank you for that. But you can still use that water for the garden if it's got the green algae in it.
Yeah, it's very good in the garden. It's not a problem.
Okay.
If it's green, yeah, it's very good for the garden.
Okay. Thank you for that. Tabelo, I see your hand, and Sebia, I'm coming to you after Tabelo. Would you like to unmute? There we go.
Afternoon, I tried to type in, but well, yeah, in short, I'd like to ask, so with the grey water, could I be using my immediate dishwash, the dishwater that I used, which probably has detergent? Could I directly water vegetables like carrots, which would be still going underground, and potatoes perhaps, could those chemicals in the water and the temperature of the water have an impact on the plants? Thank you from here.
Yes, the water with the detergent, it is important just you filter it. To filter it is very easy. You can take 2 drums, then both the drums you fill them with the stones, like the gravel stones and river sand, and you plant some water-loving plants inside, like papyrus, jangas, species that likes water, and then you pour the water there, or you direct the outlet pipe to the tank. Then it goes into there, and then the water goes down through the sand and the gravel, and then it comes out, and then it goes into the another tank. Then the second, when you use detergents in the garden, sometimes they are not good for the plants, especially the root crops. So it is better always to purify the grey water system. So there are different methods you can use for grey water system treatment.
That's very useful information. Thank you so much, John. Tabelo, I hope that your question has been answered, but please feel free to, I see your hand is raised again. Was it from last time, or did you have another question? Okay, I'm going to assume that your question has been answered. Moving on to Sebia. Sebia's question, John, is, can you make the ridges at any stages of the crops? And I'm not 100% sure what she means by that, but maybe you understand that? Or maybe, Sebia, you'd like to say something more about that?
Ridges, it is important. It depends with the crop. For example, if you are planting potatoes, you need the ridges at the beginning, before planting. But when you have planted beetroot or groundnuts or roundnuts, you can make ridges when they've started to flower, so that they have more what you call a crop. So, or you can design your field, it depends where you are, with ridges at the first place, and then bring your seeds or seedlings and plant. Yeah, so that you plant on the ridge. So you can pre-plan or pre-develop the ridges, or you work out new ridges as the plant grows. And you can, maize, when you start to tassel, then you bring ridges, so that you are aiming that when you receive the rains, you are concentrating water around the roots of the plant, and then it can give you good yield.
Okay, thank you. Philippine, are you aware of any questions that I've missed?
Hi, Rev Berry. On my end, no. Those are all that we had.
Okay.
Those are all that we had regarding this webinar.
Okay, I just also see that, I don't know if this is in addition to Tabelo's question regarding the temperature of the grey water. If my dishwater, for instance, is very hot, is that going to make a difference to the plants?
Yeah, that's why we suggested that it has to go through filtering process, but it is not good also to release very hot water from the basin from your house to the garden where you know there are plants. Of course, plants, they have feelings, they can die from hot water like people. So we don't need to release hot water into the garden.
You've just given me another quote of yours that I'm going to remember forever, John, and that is, plants have feelings. Like the very first, I'll never forget the first one where you said you've just got to love the soil. That sits with me every day. I think about you telling us to love the soil. And now I'm going to remember that plants have feelings. I love that, because they really do. They're part of all of life, aren't they?
Yes, yeah.
So that's super. Any other questions or anything else that comes up that anybody would like to say, comment on? I was quite fascinated, John, to see the use of straw as a mulch there in some of your pictures. And I was just realizing that mulch, straw as a covering of the plants, it's also a filtration system, isn't it?
Yes, when you have mulch, you pour something on top, then the mulch itself, it screens some bad things already. And then as it decomposes, it becomes humus. And that humus also is good in screening and cleaning the water as it goes into the ground. So it is, mulch is very important in our gardens.
Right, right. And I was also wondering, just going back to that, and I know we're taking a step backwards, but it's given me a little bit of a different perspective, linking the water back to the mulch and back to the whole process that we've already been through. It's almost like enriching the process that we've been speaking about. So in terms of the water filtration and just holding the water, can you remind us what is the best kind of mulch? I saw the straw in your photographs, and it gave me a bit of an inspiration. So
the all organic matter are good for mulching. You can look at leaves, tree leaves, you can use them to mulch your garden. The straw, like the grass cuttings, are good for mulching. The maize or crop stovers, the leftover of the crops after harvesting, they are good for mulching. Also the ground cover, like plants that creeps, we call them cover crops. They are good for mulching. So all these plants, as they are organic material, as long as they are organic, they are all good for mulching the garden or covering the garden. So it is important that you don't see soil as you walk in your garden. You don't see soil. Always the ground is covered by something.
that's interesting, because in Africa we like to clean our ground, don't we? And
Want to sweep.
want to sweep, exactly. So it's just interesting to get our heads around that. Another question from Tabella that I think is a very good question. Best time of watering, is it night or in the morning? I remember my father always used to say, never water at noon because it's going to burn the plants.
Oh yeah, I didn't highlight that, but I can share you some information about it. It is important that when you are watering in winter, you water in the morning in winter, because if you water at night in winter, the whole night the temperatures goes down, and you are giving access to the cold to destroy your plants. In summer, like now, you water as from 12 o'clock going on in the afternoon, in the evening, you can water, because you are cooling out the soil, and as the early morning, in the mornings, the moisture is still there, and it is good that you don't lose water from evaporation if you water in the evening. So that's the two areas, the two ways of watering your garden. Yeah. In the morning, especially in if it's winter. In the evening, afternoon or evening, when it's summer, symbol like that.
That's very useful. Thank you. That's great. So Tabella, I think that's quite a full answer, and I hope that has helped you. I'm also, Tabella's question about chemicals as well was very interesting to me, because we always speak about grey water, and we think about grey water as being water from our dishwashers and from our washing machines and from our sinks, but there's always chemicals in those, from detergents and from our household cleaners. So is the filtration system that you've described, is that going to get all of the toxins out of the water, or is there something else we should be doing to protect our gardens from the toxins in our grey water?
It's all depending with the size of land we have. Like the photos I show you there, we had about 7 filtering ponds, 7 of them. So from the kitchen, it went to a grease trap, or this grease trap also traps some of the chemicals, and then it goes in several tanks until the 7th tank, where we have clean water. So you are not only looking at the chemical from soap, but also you are looking at elements like if it happens that you wash nappies into the system, so you might have some elements of feces, some elements of different things that can come through. So it has to be filtered through. So the best is the plants that you plant there, and also adding earthworms in the system. Earthworms, they can clean all that system easy. And of course, plants like the jangas and papyrus, they're the best one of cleaning the water and remove all the toxins in the soil. And also this water should also be exposed to sunlight. And within the sunlight, there are some other chemicals that are removed from direct sunlight, heat from the sunlight. Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, I didn't know that the sunlight itself, I mean, sunlight seems to heal so many things. I didn't realize the sunlight itself would actually help to cleanse the water.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Anybody else have questions around that? I feel as if I totally dominate the conversation with John because I find him so interesting. But I really do have space for other people's questions as well. Anybody? John, I do love the sound effects that are around you and that come through all the time. It just totally adds to the whole ambience, and we can feel like we're in your garden with you.
Yeah. Yeah, we have chickens, we have geese, we have the birds. Yeah, we have everything.
We have everything.
And dogs.
Fantastic. John, I do have another question though, and that is this. I live on the coast, so obviously it's salty around here, and I wonder what the salt does to gardens and to plants.
There are plants that can grow in the salty environment, but what you need to do is to study which plants can grow in the salt type soils and which ones do not. But as we have been talking about mulch and watering, when we have deep mulch, thick mulch, which is not salty, it helps itself to clean the salt. It helps itself to make sure the plants, they can survive. Any plant can survive if you have deep mulch and good organic matter in the soil. Then it cleans the salts out.
It's interesting because here in the Cape, there are so many plants that grow here naturally that we don't realize are food. So there are plants that grow on sand dunes. There are plants that grow on the mountains here that we have forgotten the wisdom of what is actually food and what is not.
Yeah, we have so many plants that are indigenous and that are food. And this is what I'm trying to collect here in my nursery. You can see if I quickly show you, we have a variety of plants around here, and we are trying to produce these plants for food, and they are most of them indigenous species. So we try to gather as much as we can and look at the African plants and propagate them.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really big piece, because I think that it's also about reducing our carbon footprint by making use of what is easily grown around us in the areas that we live in, so that we don't have to transport things in from a far distance because we are used to them or because we like them.
Yep. Yeah. We need to eat locally and eat our indigenous food as much as possible.
Eat local.
It's interesting when you look at Dovaris scafra, the K apple, the way it produces vitamin C, and also the malula plant. You compare with orange. Orange doesn't produce enough vitamin C compared to K apple plant. K apple is indigenous, malula is indigenous. But people, we tend not to like our indigenous plants, go for the subtropicals.
Yeah, I think that's a marketing thing too, isn't it? You mentioned marula, and what was the other one? I didn't catch it.
Oh, it's called the Dovialis capra or K apple. K apple.
K-E-P-O.
K apple, K-A-E, K apple, K-E-I, apple, K apple.
Okay, I think it's that. I think I've put it in the chat, and I think it's that. But I'll check in with you and just make sure. Maybe I've got it wrong.
I'll put it.
You're going to put it. Okay, great. Yeah, that's a good idea. Right. While John is doing that, if there are any, Cafra. Is that the common name for it, John?
That's the botanical name.
That's the botanical name. What do we know it as?
What is it?
What name would we recognize? What is the street name really for that?
Or the I don't know the street name, but the English name is K apple.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I'm going to just ask somebody to close in prayer for us, unless there's any other questions. K apple, got it. Okay, K apple. Sorry, John. I think the sound was just not quite reaching the right place in my ear. I've got it now. K apple. Thank you so much. Yes, you're quite right. And I remember also we used to call them something ivory, like I think we called it. They're tiny little almond-shaped fruit that I had in Limpopo when it was just beautiful. I used to just pluck them off the trees, but I never knew the name of them.
Oh, now you are talking about the.
Then okay, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yes,
That's the street name, yeah.
Street name, absolutely. Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that anybody would like to ask? And John, do you have a last word for us?
I just want to thank you for this program, and I wish everybody the best to grow their own food. Once we grow our own food, we are creating an independent system. We are creating a choice to what we want to eat, and we are developing the right to the environment which we want to live now and for the future generation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John, and every blessing to you. Gabriel, would you like to close in prayer for us? Gabriel, do you hear me? I think that Gabriel might not be listening to me.
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry, I had not unmuted.
Wonderful, Gabriel. Thank you so much for closing in prayer for us.
Let us pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you this afternoon, and we thank you for this session that we have had We thank you, Lord, for John, who has helped us through so that we'll be able to take greater care of the earth that we live in, and that will also be able to produce food and share with all that we live with. We praise you, Lord, for this knowledge. We praise you, Lord, that you would enable us to make use of the information that we have gathered, and that your name will be praised as we share the food, and that your name will be praised as we take care of this living earth. We worship you and we praise you in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Continue, oh Lord, to help us that will be good stewards of the earth, and that will live a life that would also enable other generations to have a full life that is free from all the diseases that come along with us not being good stewards. We worship you now and forevermore. In Jesus Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, everybody.
Amen.
Amen. And John, thank you again. I'm looking forward to next week. What's our subject next week, John?
Yeah, thank you very much. Oh, I can't tell you now because, yeah, I need to check it with the program.
Okay, so it's a secret until next week. But,
Secret.
but we're looking forward to it. And thank you, everybody, for your participation, your questions, and just your blessings on your day. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.